Hey everybody, and welcome back to Angling Archaeology. And if you're wondering, why am I wearing all this KU stuff? Well, it's March right now, so the madness has started. Gotta support the team. But it also ties into the video that we're gonna do today. And it's about a little bait that I ran across at an estate sale about a year ago, and I knew nothing about it. When I first saw this bait, I thought, this thing looks a little bit more Fisher Price and a little less fishing bait. And what we're talking about here is the Li'l Tubby. And this is the Li'l Tubby by Strom. And here's the original Li'l Tubby right here. And then we have the deep diving Tubby right here. And I saw this bait and I was really interested because I've never seen this before. And there's really not a lot of information about this bait online. And so I figured, well, perfect first episode for Angling Archaeology. Let's dive in to the Li'l Tubby. Now, the first thing you're going to notice about the Li'l Tubby is that it's a hard plastic crankbait in the front with a rubber tail. And for the time when this released, this is very unique. In fact, I don't know that there is any other baits like this when this was first released. Now, when I first saw it, I noticed one thing. I thought, this has got to be a storm lure. Just judging by the eyeballs on it, it resembles a lot like the wigglewort right here. You can see the over-exaggerated eyes and just kind of the same look. And also the bill is the same color as the bait itself. Now, in researching the Li'l Tubby, I found that there was very little online about this and zero on YouTube about it. But I was able to scrounge up just enough to be dangerous. So let's take a look at that right now, and let's see the history of where the Li'l Tubby came from. Before we learn more about the Li'l Tubby, we need to learn a little bit more about the man who created it. Pictured here is Jerry Rhoton in 1967 at the World Invitational Bass Tournament at Lake Texoma. Now, Jerry had a few jobs out of college, but probably most notably was Don Butler's world-famous Okie Bug lure manufacturer in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Fast forward a couple years, Jerry found himself at Strom Lure Co out of Norman, Oklahoma. It was here at Strom that Jerry began to design, market, and eventually manufacture what will soon become the Li'l Tubby. As I dig deeper down the Tubby Tackle rabbit hole, I find some pretty interesting dates. The first date being March 17th, 1975. This is where we see the first trademark for Li'l Tubby and the Tubby Tail. Next one being Tubby Tackle Company on October 21st, 1975. Then, in 1976, we see the D.D.T, which stands for Deep Diving Tubby, on March 24th, and August 9th, we see the Tiny Tubby. The Li'l Tubby was a big hit when it first hit the market in the mid-70s. In 1975, Glenn Titus, outdoor writer for the Oklahoma newspaper, wrote an article entitled Li'l Tubbies Come in 36 Flavors and Fish Love 'Em. Now, Titus described the Li'l Tubby as a 2-inch long, half-ounce wobbling crankbait with a fish-calling rattle and a quivering, squirming twister tail. Now, what was really unique about the Li'l Tubby, especially for the time, was the assortment of tails that could be attached to the bait. The lure originally came in 6 different colors with different tail assortments. The angler could have 36 different lure combinations. Strom, where Rhoton worked for 4 years, made and sold the lure, even coming up with other variations, such as the Tubby Eel. Now, Tubby Tackle was certainly ahead of its time, likely inspiring other baits such as Bill Dance's Dancing Eel and the Power Bait Power series from the mid-90s, with a hard crankbait front end and a soft action tail in the back. Everybody started calling Jerry Tubby after he created the bait. Jimmy Houston, good friends with Rhoton for over 50 years, said it was an incredible bait. We just smoked him on it. It was like a wigglewort with a tail. I would like to see us bring that lure back. It's also good to note that Jerry fished the BASS circuit in the 70s and 80s. There's no denying the impact that Tubby made on the fishing industry. Sadly, we lost Jerry back in 2020, but his legacy will always live on in the lures he created. Well, now that we've seen a little bit of the history of the Li'l Tubby, let's take a little closer look at the Li'l Tubby. And starting off with the original right here. And as we can see, this is what the original packaging would have looked like back in the mid-70s. First production of the Li'l Tubby. And then here's another one right there. This is a shad pattern. Just a really, really cool bait. You can see the back there. Then as we move on, the D.D.T, which is the double deep tubby, right there. So we have 9 variations of the D.D.T. And then later came the tiny tubby. You can see that. Just a smaller, but this is also a deep diving tiny tubby. So it doesn't have the square bill on it. Still, really neat little bait. And then fast forwarding a few years, we start to see other things too, like the deep tubby eel. So this is the deep tubby eel right here. And as shown in that video, it looks a lot like the bill dance eel. So I'm not sure which one came first, the chicken or the egg on that bill dance or tubby, but certainly very, very close. But you can see, I mean, these are just really, really cool baits. Stuff that you don't see too much today. Well, really at all today. So as I mentioned, there's very, very little online about this. In fact, there's no advertising, very little on Google. As I said before, nothing really on YouTube. But as I go through some of these old Bass Pro catalogs, I did see one little advertisement for it. And you can see it right here. The Li'l Tubby in the 1982 Bass Pro catalog, $2.94. And this shows the original one and the D.D.T. So you got the Li'l Tubby and the D.D.T right here. But that's it. I mean, there's not really a whole lot about this bait. You know, finally, we better talk about the action of the Li'l Tubby. You take a look at this thing and you're like, oh man, it's not gonna sink, what's gonna go on? It does, it's got a knock to it, which is pretty cool. It's got the square bill, but does it actually work? Let's do a quick little outdoor video and just see what's the action like on this. Well, as we can see from the video, you know this thing is a fish catcher. I mean, the action on this is insane. So don't let the looks deceive you. This is a great little bait. And as Jimmy Houston said, I would love to see them bring this back. This is really cool. This is going to be one that's going to be in the tackle box moving forward. I think it's going to be certainly an effective little bait for springtime. Now, I had grand illusions of getting out there and catching a 5-pound bass on this and showing it on video. But you know what? It's March. It's early. If I was going out there with a finesse setup, yeah, I probably would have got something for you. But I just, you know, 3 or 4 weeks from now, this thing is going to be on fire for spring. Well, as I mentioned in the first episode of Angling Archaeology, this channel is about everything vintage. And so it can be about fishing, it can be about coolers, it can be about music. And so we're going to talk about music real quick. And you can't go fishing without a good fishing soundtrack. So I'm going to do a little segment, what I like to call tackle tunes. And here's what I'm going to focus on this week. So you saw that the Li'l Tubby was first patented on March 17th, 1975. So I thought, you know what? Why don't we start looking at some music that was big back on March of 1975. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is a song by the Eagles at number 13, Best of My Love. And this is Eagles on the Border. Great album. I mean, it's got Already Gone on it. just a phenomenal album. So we're starting off with that one. So put that one on your Tackle Tunes list. Next song, keep in mind this is March 1975. This is America, and it's number 7 on the charts, and it's Lonely People. Now this is their greatest hits album, so this has Horse with No Name, Sandman, Muskrat Love, Tin Man, Lonely People, Sister Golden Hair, Ventura Highway. This has all the greatest hits, but Lonely People was on the charts back in March of 75. Moving up the chart just one spot at number 6, Styx, and the song is Lady. And this is on the Styx 2 album. Another great album, Styx. You can't go wrong with Styx. Everybody loves Styx. And the number 1 album for March 17th, 1975, the day that the Li'l Tubby first got its patent, is none other than the Doobie Brothers, Blackwater. Great album right here. Unfortunately, I don't have the album that has Blackwater on it. This is their greatest hits, but still an incredible album. It's got everything you need on it. It's got China Grove. It's got Taking It to the Streets, Listen to the Music, Blackwater, Rockin' Down the Highway. It's got all the hits that you want. It's perfect. Great tune. Get out there. Fish some of these old school baits. Have fun with it. I mean, that's why we're going out there anyways, just to have fun. So pick up something at a garage sale, something maybe you just don't know anything about. Do a little bit of history on it. Have fun with it. Fish it. And, stick around for the next Angling Archaeology, because over here, we like to unearth the good old days. Till next time, guys. We'll see you out there.